down orally. Every culture has stories of mystery schools in some way that taught. I mean, we talk about Egypt and Greece a lot because they're very popular and they built beautiful temples, but all of Eastern philosophies had mystery schools and still do. You know, we can see them in India. We can see hints of them in China and Japan, everywhere. You can see Hawaii. Even if you go back and look at the Kahunas, you can trace back and see. It's almost any civilization that's been around for a while, you can find the trace of their mystery schools. And people think, oh, why were they hidden or mysterious, or esoteric is the word they use, which means for the few. It's not that you weren't invited or that anyone wasn't invited. It's that only a few people want to do the work and go that deep and really get to know themselves, because you have to transcend ego. You have to transcend your self-absorbedness. You have to want to look within and understand who you're here, and then say, okay, I get who I am. Now, what am I going to do with it? How do I be of service? How do I help? How do I grow? And a lot of people just, sometimes don't want to look that far. So the reason they had those temples was the people that really wanted to go deep and study did, and they went in. And those that didn't, the temples had holidays and rituals that people could come to that would put them in that mindset. Here's a ritual where you light a candle, or you burn incense, or you dance, and we have food, and we call it a holiday, a holy day, right? We have these rituals that would remind people of the sacredness of us being here, to take some time, who wanted to live their life in other ways, let's say, but one needed to be reminded and wanted to be reminded of certain times of year. So in the old days, mystery schools provided all of that through the temples. They they had the temple priestesses that would do the outward rituals and parties and events, and then you had the high priestesses and priests who would teach the people who wanted to go much deeper and learn to do. So when you do that, you learn about yourself first. You have to, like I said, transcend ego and do things. And then you start to learn, I guess, some of the magic of the universe, the way the universe works. And you start to develop those abilities, psychic abilities, magical type abilities, alchemic, chemical things, and understand the lead and the gold is not like what they talked about in the Renaissance, where you're trying to, make gold, but it's a transmutation within inside the body. And one of my books is The Awakened Aura. I talk a lot about the aura, how I see auras around people, how it changes. And you can see that alchemical transmutation in a person when they start to refine their energy and they start to glow with more light, and they get a gold light around them. The lead is like the iron in the blood. And when we start to change our thoughts, raise our consciousness, raise our energy, we refine the lead that's, the iron, the lead in the blood, refine it into a higher vibration, vibrating out of our chakras and our aura, lifting up into the higher chakras, goes out into the aura and becomes more of a gold. And that's that's why my book is Secret of the Mystery Schools Unveiled, because I get in trouble sometimes. I used to have a lot of people that would show up when I would give talks, and they're like, you're telling the secrets and this isn't right. And I'm like, it's time. It's the age of Aquarius is here. It's time to give this information out. So I do share it freely. I write about it in the book. I teach about it. I talk about it. That's just one of the refinements. And so when you look in the art from like the Renaissance time, and you'll see like a halo, in a lot of the Renaissance art, that halo, that gold halo, is really depicting the aura that person has raised their consciousness and their vibration, and they are awakened, they are enlightened, they're vibrating with that gold energy. They've done the alchemical transmutation from within. And that's what mystery schools tried to do, was to empower, enlighten, inspire, educate, so that people could reach their full capabilities that have been lost over time. Because we have a really bad track record of certain groups getting religious and trying to kill other groups or wipe out all their information. So then I have past life memories of that, being burned at the stake for teaching these things. And, then we have to wait, and people like me have to come back and try to share it again and hope this time people are more tolerant, so.
Yes. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah, I do agree with what you say. So many times, oftentimes when, the law of attraction, people don't want to do the work. because they want the quick fix. And I noticed that I noticed, because I interview many great artists. I
Mm.
mean, author, was it Dennis William Hawk and Robert Allen Bartlett, amazing authors. You probably heard of them. Yes, and I noticed that because I was reading this book called The Wicca and Witchcraft, right? And I was reading Hinduism, and I was reading this book called Thomas True Word. It's called The Bible Mystery and the Bible Meaning. And I pieced it together. People believe in the devil, you know, but I hear a lot of people say, a cult is evil or whatever. It's not, right? And I remember I was really into the occult, and I was reading the name Lucifer was light barrier. And
Mm.
so oftentimes I don't believe, because I destroy the myth in my head that people have, because people are afraid, like witch. I was reading this book where the witchcraft and Wicca, they were talking about really cruel things that people did to the people, the witchcraft, and I feel hurt because I was like, you don't need to do that, because Wicca is based on Earth religion,
Mhm.
and it's all about natural energy. Like, it's the same thing as the Chinese, they use chi. Like, they're all saying the same thing, but because I noticed that if Chuck Norris, right? I
Mhm.
listened to his interview. He talked about is not only the physical aspect, it's the mental and the spiritual. And I understood that it's the same thing as the alchemy, the spiritual and the mental in three levels, right? And
Mhm.
we like misunderstood. It's not the physical only, but it's about all that. I think that's what people forget. But thank you so much for the amazing information. That's holy crap. Uh,
Well, with a cult, when you have groups that are seeking to control things, whether it's political, whether it's taking over countries, or, we look at the history of Europe and how there was a campaign, with Constantine to kind of take over, in all of Europe at the time. And they brought religion into it to try to control the masses and take over things. Well, when you're on a campaign like that, like any PR campaign, there's a winner and a loser, and you talk bad about the other side. So all of a sudden, words that meant, didn't mean a bad thing, like a cult, they start to say it's bad, or you create a bad guy. I mean, I could go into talks about religion and the history of that a lot, of, how they've thrown words around and made things. But, a couple hundred years later, when you've been brought up thinking that this is bad, or told there's this big bad thing or whatever, you just don't know any better because you've been told that since you were a kid. And so when you start to really, that's why I love for people to read. That's why I say in my book, don't believe a word I say, go out and research it, Google it, look at the real histories of things. And you'll see that in every religion, if you really boil it down to its essence, it's really just about love, caring about other people, trying to be the best you can be a good person. The rest of it is man-made dogma for control one way or another, whether you